Breaking news, Coinbase drained 600 million XRP. And today, we're going to show our listeners how with crypto ETFs on the horizon, it looks like institutions are lining up behind the scenes to purchase many of our favorite assets. XRP, HBAR, even Litecoin could have an ETF approval in the next 6 weeks. And we just got a brand new update out of Bloomberg that leads us to believe we may even see our earliest approval starting on September 19th, 2025. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Good Evening Crypto, your favorite crypto news related channel. And you're going to want to stick around for the entire episode today. As you can tell, the breaking news is data from Xrp Scan shows that Coinbase XRP holdings have reduced nearly 70% in only 3 months. And this data was from the weekend. But when I checked it Monday morning, Johnny, they are down to 165 million units of XRP. Well, what could really be happening here? There are buyers accumulating this asset in a way that we've never seen before. And with new Wall Street investors stepping into the space because the passing of the Clarity Act is on the horizon, they're probably looking at the asset class and saying Bitcoin's up 84%, Ethereum's up 48%, but XRP, the third largest digital asset, is up nearly 400% in only 12 months. And with companies like WisdomTree, Bitwise, Grayscale, and nearly a dozen others having already filed for an XRP ETF, it's my safe assumption here that these institutions are finally beginning to purchase these assets. But it's not just me. It's our good friend, the modern investor, that fears very similar. Here's what he had to say.
The total number for XRP is near 20 or something like that. And I learned the hard way because a couple of months, I think I said 12 and someone was like, it's 17. And I said, okay. Then I said 17 and someone was like, it's 21. And I was like, I get it. Please. I'm just, okay. Yes. 92, 90 freaking 2.
And this is why it's a different alt season than we've ever seen before, Johnny Crypto. Clarity Act being passed in the fall, XRP ETFs, Solana ETFs, and the Fed reducing rates possibly starting next week. We are getting all the catalysts that are necessary in order for these assets to reach price targets we have never seen before. If you're enjoying this content, smash that like button to let us know, do you believe an XRP ETF will be approved? Well, there's just one more video I want our listeners to understand, and that is the James Seyffart video letting everyone know we may see these ETFs starting in September.
The ISG framework. So anything listed on Coinbase derivatives with a futures contract for 6 months, theoretically, once this framework is approved, or if it's approved as it's currently, there's going back and forth. Like as you saw with the Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs, it's the issuers exchanges going back and forth with the SEC. And that's what they're doing with this framework. Theoretically, the earliest it could be approved is sometime, I think it's like September 19th. I wouldn't hold my breath for that, but that's where things are headed. But we have a whole bunch of ETFs due under the old process starting in like early October.
And those are the dates that we've been focused on here on Good Evening Crypto, Johnny, because October 18th is that Grayscale deadline for the first ever XRP spot ETF. And we're going to bring this whole thing full circle because the reality is we are talking about Coinbase draining 600 million units of XRP in the last 90 days. And if you look at the last 30 days, over 80% of that took place in the last 30 days. So there are major moves happening in the background. And I believe it's analysts like James Seyffart that are sharing some of that news. Because if guys like us can figure this out, you don't think WisdomTree, Grayscale, Bitwise, and some of the most powerful companies in the American economy today could figure this out? I believe they're accumulating these assets behind the scenes. What are some of your conclusions?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, let's face it. We all know where this is headed. We all know we are moving towards a series or baskets of exchanges or ETFs traded funds that are going to come out. There's no question about it, no surprise. Now, to me, when you started to show the data of a drop from 700 million to 200 million or 165 million XRP, that almost, to me, the most logical, when I think about it right there, the most logical conclusion that one would make of where all these are going is this. Remember, institutions have to, when the Bitcoin ETF was launched, BlackRock was buying Bitcoin in prep for it. Okay, you buy the underlying asset as you're going to off. So it's no surprise to me at all to start seeing these companies maybe are starting to pick up, institutions are starting to pick up some of these. Either one, some maybe in prep for holding the XRP coin for the ETFs when they come because they probably know it's coming. Two, could be because they know it's coming and they also want to have, you know, a hedge so they can also gain on it. So no question about it. To me, I think you're just starting to see major players prepping for what they know is coming, and it ain't coming in September. Let's see, for like you said, don't hold your breath. I agree. The one thing I've learned about the government is they don't over deliver. They don't show up and usually deliver early, like your plane when it shows up at the airport early. That doesn't happen with the government, okay? This thing's going to be later and delayed. My guess is it'll be sometime in, end of September or sometime in October. But for me, Abs, this actually, as much as people worry, like, oh my God, Coinbase is dumping, this actually is exciting to me. This, to me, is one of those quiet leading indicators telling you somebody is picking up a ton of XRP for a reason. And we all know what the reason is.
And I want to make a point here, Johnny, because BlackRock is connected as a partner of Coinbase Prime. And Coinbase Prime is an exchange that is only offered to institutions. Now, what's really important about that, XRP is available for BlackRock to purchase right now through that Coinbase Prime. If you believe this is BlackRock, smash that like button. If you don't believe it, leave a comment underneath the video. But Johnny, I wanted to briefly cover some of the applications that we have thus far. Bitwise, Wisdom Tree, 21 shares, Grayscale. These are multi-billion-dollar companies. And in the case of Franklin Templeton, a $1.5 trillion asset manager. So these are not small players, niche, new to the market. These are massive, powerful players in the financial markets right now. Nobody has exposure to this asset in the grand scheme of things. When you look at the wallets globally, this is not the United States of America. This is all around the world. You only need 2,400 units of XRP to be in the top 10% of wallets on planet Earth. And so what does that say to me, Johnny? It tells me that retail investors don't have enough exposure here. What are some of your thoughts?
Well, Abs, you're absolutely right. Not only did that not have enough exposure, I'm actually going to work. I'm working on something for you, Abs. I'm going to surprise you with this chart. But what it's going to help you see is the longer you wait, the harder it is to move up this scale, right? And so you think about institutions now, and they're looking at going, well, there's a $3 XRP price now, whatever, 280, where we are, versus double digits, which they can see coming potentially, when you think of all the new liquidity that's going to come in that can be brought in through an ETF. They're no fools. They don't want to sit in the sideline and miss that upside potential. And so to me, they also want to get in and be part of that 1%, if you will, or even less than that. But to me, that's my biggest fear, Abs, is I'm afraid that the retailers who got in, great, congratulations to you. You're going to do very well. For those who haven't, Abs, and are sitting on the sidelines still waiting to see whether crypto's real or not, those are the folks that are going to really miss out on a massive once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to create generational wealth through crypto.
And Johnny, if guys like me and you can recognize that XRP is outperforming the rest of the crypto market and it's looking like it's only going to continue, then the ETF issuers, it is their job to identify that. And that is what James Seyfert says in this short clip when he talks about the demand between XRP and Solana. XRP is winning once again.
I would have thought Solana would do pretty well, but we have Solana futures products that could be a decent indicator. And we have the Solana product now that has staking. And ironically,
how are they doing?
Pretty good, actually. But ironically enough, there's also leverage futures XRP and XRP products. They actually launched after the Solana products and had even more interest. So there's a lot of interest there. Is it going to be the level of interest that the Bitcoin ETF launch had? Absolutely not. Like anyone who thinks like, oh, Bitcoin ETFs took in 40 billion, my XRP ETF is going to take in the same amount or whatever. That's just not how this is going to work. These are longer tail assets. I think there will be demand. There will be plenty. There will probably be multiple products for each of these assets to do well. Maybe not all 10 of the ones I listed, but a decent amount of them.
It's literally confirming what a friend I had who kind of works in the space said the same thing. He said when the Bitcoin ETFs came out, there was a lot of interest. Ethereum ETFs, his phone never rang. But when the XRP was, his phone's ringing off the hook right now, Abs. People want in on XRP ETFs. He's like, they're not out yet. So that just shows you that there's so much demand in the community. And, and he's just one point. What has me really excited, you just played that video with Jim Seifert from Bloomberg. I mean, this guy's more well-connected than my buddy, right? And the reality is here, when you think about it, he's literally telling you, and you and I both know how, like, there's been so much, all these big boys love Solana. There's this love for Solana. Like, everybody loves Solana, right? And I love the fact that he's like, well, we put Solana out there, and we put it out there first, but everybody wants the XRP one, and that one's doing better, and that came later. It just tells you there is a massive, massive community behind XRP. And let me tell you something about the elites. You don't think that they're not going to want to exploit that? Of course they are. That's why there's 19 or 21, don't crucify us, or 20, 27, however many there's going to end up being XRP ETFs, because the big boys recognize there is a massive demand. There's a massive loyalty from this community. Yes, XRP community, Army, you are the best. And because of that, they are putting these products out there because they want to capture as much of that upside potential as they can. And that's why, to me, we just could not be more well-positioned right now in XRP. If you've been buying from 2020 all the way to this point, you're still early.
It was only 8 years ago that XRP was trading at $3.50. We are still below that very number today. But this data and information leads me to believe that when an XRP ETF is approved, Johnny, $1 billion, $5 billion, $10 billion worth of inflows could radically change the value of the XRP price chart. And here's the data. Bloomberg's ETF analyst predicts 95% approval odds for an XRP ETF. And we're looking at an asset this morning that had a solid rebound. We are looking at the weekly timeframes. It appears that we bottomed out at about 268, 269 just a couple of weeks ago. And now we're about to get daily closures back above $3. And Johnny, I've said this to you several times off camera, and I'll say it once again on camera. When we break 365 with volume, it is a quick journey to 450. And remember that I said that, guys. If you agree, smash that like button and let me know some of your thoughts. But I absolutely think that the bullish momentum is coming in. And it's not just the ETFs. We also have Bitcoin ready to break its all-time high. We have Ethereum starting to move up 25% in just the last 40 days. These are the indicators we've been waiting for, along with Bitcoin dominance dropping, that lead me to believe that XRP will once again have that euphoric moment towards the back end of 2025, potentially taking us to price targets, or not potentially, for the first time ever, taking us to price targets we have never seen before, 5, 10, 12. Nobody really knows where we could head over these next 6 to 8 months, but I think it's important for people to understand that the volatility can change on a single headline, and this week was another example of that.
When you look at, he had said that, oh, everybody's expecting, we had 40 billion of inflows come into XRP, or into Bitcoin. We're going to get 40 billion in XRP. No, absolutely not. I mean, just look at the market cap size. We know that you're literally talking almost a 10x difference from the XRP market cap to the Bitcoin market cap. So XRP is much smaller. I would never, and this, I just want all of our listeners to say, guys, if you're expecting $40 billion to come in, it's not going to happen. But JP Morgan has come out and they've said, hey, 6 to 8 billion coming into this space is reasonable. They think that's very possible. Labs, if you think about that, that's better than a 10x ratio. Because if we only got 40 billion that came into XRP and we're about 10x less than market cap, that would only put you around 4 billion. We get 8. To me, that's over exceeding, where we are from a market cap perspective of the size of the pie for these two assets. So to me, this is actually an exciting thing that the projections are showing we may get almost 2x of what would be, the difference between the two market caps, which again, just tells you that be practical, right? Understand we're not going to be anywhere near 40 billion, but we get 8 billion. You're going to see a very, very nice double-digit XRP, in my opinion, Abs.
We're going to go through the XRP rich list because once again, I think it speaks to the big differences of how early the XRP community is versus how early some of these Bitcoin investors are. Buying Bitcoin in 2015 is very similar to buying XRP in 2025. This is an ecosystem that is just beginning to grow. It's not solidified. We don't have decentralized apps fully scaled and operating all across the American economy, but that is where I believe we're headed over these next 5-10 years. And when you look at the rich list one more time, because I want our listeners to really set goals for themselves, you only need 2,400 XRP to be in the top 10% of wallets on planet Earth. Now, if you really want to step up, 8,400 will get you in the top 5%. 10,500 is the top 4, 25,000 units is the top 2, and 50,000 units of XRP put you in the top 1% of wallets on planet Earth. That speaks volumes, Johnny Krypto. And I think 5 or 10 years from now, if you have 2,400 XRP, that may be worth millions of dollars, depending on where your price targets are. And I want to highlight the example that we got from Dom and Phil from the EZA app. Phil is a Harvard graduate, right? And he created the market cap multiplier that we've showed many times on this program. But what I think is so important about that is that he's anticipating a $1,000 XRP between now and 2030. He made that case on the New York Stock Exchange just a couple of weeks ago. So he's willing to bet his reputation to a certain extent on that prediction. And what I think is so valuable about that prediction, Johnny, is that even if he's 50 or 80% wrong, we're talking about a $500 or a $200 XRP in just the next 4 or 5 years. This is the opportunity that middle-class Americans have been waiting for. And you often draw the comparison to the early 2000s. Some investors experienced this with the Tesla bull run. I think this is one of those generational bull runs that people will know 5 or 10 years from now, wow, that guy's an XRP investor, the same way they talk about the big Bitcoin whales in the crypto market today. But if you're enjoying this content, smash that like button and subscribe to the brand new channel. You're going to get an update every single day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Now, I just want to finish out the list. 50,000 to be in the top 1%, 100,000 to be in the top 0.5%, 200,000 units to be in the top 0.2. And if you want to be a 0.1 percenter, that's 350,000 units of XRP. That's a big bag, Johnny Krypto. And I think people should be focused on some of those lower sectors. If you're fortunate enough to get 350, more power to you. Literally, floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, listen, at this point, it's almost inconceivable to be able to cap, buy 350,000.
Yeah, it's $1 million, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, when it was a penny or 2 cents, you could definitely see that, right? But the reality is, I love what you said, and that's the way people should think about it. Is look, if you've got a long-term hold plan and you see the future like we see it, and you believe XRP is going what we believe into double and potentially triple digits, any one of these percenters is going to change your life, guys. You're going to be in a very, very good position. I mean, nobody knows where this thing is going. You're hearing lots of predictions, but the reality is, here's what we know. We're at the beginning of something very big, and we have a president and an administration that has already put all the pieces in place to make America the crypto capital of the world, which tells me that those, especially the ones in the top 10 or 20, all those crypto assets apps, they're all going to benefit in the long run. And the ones that actually have companies behind them that are kind of helping and driving the community, like think about Ripple, right? Ripple, the company, like XRP's not out there on its own just hoping for people to adopt it. You've got the company going out there and creating products to that will then utilize that asset in the long run, whether it's through the XRP ledger or whether it's through the potential through the stablecoin if they use it for settlement or AMMs or tokenization. So they're building things that are going to allow their asset to be used. So to me, I just look at it as anywhere. If you get anywhere on that list, you're probably going to be a future millionaire.
It only takes $7,500 to get in that top 10% right now. If this turns into a $10 asset, that is $24,000. If this turns into a $20 asset, that is $50,000. If this turns into some of the predictions, a $100 asset, we are talking $240,000 that quickly. So we could see this be radically different in a very short period of time. And I just want to highlight the fact that we are also on the precipice of having the Clarity Act approved inside the United States, which is going to provide clear rules and guidelines for how Wall Street companies can integrate these assets into their existing business models. If you enjoyed this content, show us some love, smash that like button, and let us know, do you think BlackRock is buying XRP behind the scenes as we speak? And we'll see you all in the next one.